I am Leslie Ruhland, and I was president of the auxiliary in 2021. Well, first, it was super fun. It was very busy, but I loved it. It was engaging, and I had a ball. Well, the club was trying to do a great job opening up after COVID. And so it was very interesting following poor Camille Jampolsky's year as president in 2020, when everything was shut down completely. How could we reopen and conduct some of our regular events and still make the members feel safe and comfortable while recognizing the old traditional events that we've always thrown? So it was a challenge. But it was fun to see people coming back out again and wanting to be with each other, really having a sense of, oh my gosh, we can be together again. It was pretty cool. So when I became president in 2021, the restrictions began to open up a little bit, and I was hell-bent on making sure that we took advantage of every amount of less restriction that we possibly could. One of our very first events of the year was the mother-son movie night, where we had to use tape to partition off sections so that the families would be safe and there would be adequate separation because of COVID. It was a great success. I don't know how long the tape lasted on the ground, but people came and they showed up, and we could see that they were actually yearning to get more. So we had to really balance it. The general manager here at the club was trying to really be protective of the restrictions that the club was trying to put on our events, and I think I pushed a little bit, but we had a great time, and we did other things like the annual meeting. We had to rewrite the way that our voting process happened because you couldn't count the number of people in a room. It had to be done through Zoom. So it was everything from the governance of the auxiliary right down to how we actually carried out the events, whether masks were required at the time or not. We were limited on the number of people that we could have sign up for the events, which was also kind of sad because if you didn't sign up quickly enough, then you were excluded. But it was challenging, but I think people were very supportive in helping us get back on track. The ironic part about me joining the auxiliary in 2002 was that I was probably 40 at the time with 2 small children, and everybody else on the auxiliary board was way older, like in their 60s probably. And it was my personal goal to try to get younger women involved in the auxiliary and on the board, the leadership of the group, and it was hugely successful. And now I'm one of the old broads, but glad to be there. Oh goodness, that's one of the questions I did not focus on. My fondest memory of being president of the auxiliary was probably due to the post-COVID coming out party. Just really happy to be a leader in a time when people needed leadership. Why did I want to be president? To get the pendant. This pendant represents the auxiliary presidency. It's not always been a perk of presidency, but I really like it. And I admired it on other people for so many years. I thought, I need to get that pendant. But there's a lot of work that this pendant represents as well. You have to be on deck and on stage and be available to people and answer the phones, and it's a very busy time. So this represents something more than just a piece of jewelry. This is involvement and commitment as well. I joined the yacht club in 1981 because my father said, if you have plans to sail around the world, which I did, you need to belong to the oldest and most prestigious yacht club on the West Coast, which is the San Francisco Yacht Club. So I was one of the early members, and there were not a lot of women members at that time. I was one of the first, and I found that it is still, or was still, an old boys club at the time. And Christina Decker, your mother-in-law, had been trying to get my mom roped into the auxiliary for a very long time, and she set her sights on me. And I am so appreciative of that because I loved the first time I came to the first annual meeting for the auxiliary. I had a ball, and I thought, oh, this is so great. I was a regular member, but most of the auxiliary members at the time were not regular members, and they found the sense of community and camaraderie, and I wanted to be a part of it and be representative of the women that are part of making this club successful, so. A very important role for those members who are taking advantage of their membership, for sure. It's a huge community. It's a lovely community, and it's a family in a funny way. So I think that we've had, members who have had horrible tragedy occur in their lives, and the membership steps up to support them during those times, and we've had wonderful successes and happy times as well that we celebrate together. So I think that the role for the club in the community is that it helps bring people together, and our kids grow up together, and it's an important place to be. Oh, the club is my happy place. Always has been. I come here and I repeat the same thing my father used to say when I was a kid. On a Saturday morning when I don't want to hang out at home, I'll say, I've got to go down to the boat, check the engines and run the bilge. I'll be back in a little while. And I just come down, and it's my spot. It's my private place, and I come up to the clubhouse, and it's surrounded by friends and people that I enjoy seeing, and we have a common denominator, of course. But as we get to know them, we find out that our lives are actually much broader than we would have imagined on the onset. So it's a big community. Our year was fabulous. So it was still in COVID. We had to be very careful about what we did as far as the models changing upstairs in the bridge room, because the Cove House was brand new at that point, of course. We had a wonderful designer on our team that made these beautiful, huge flowers, and so it was colorful. We could have things draping, the butterflies draping from the inside of the Cove House, and it was vibrant and lovely, and I think everybody really enjoyed getting out and becoming part of a rebirth, so to speak. My dad took me on the water when I was a little kid. He always had boats. It was a lot of fun. We've been stranded out in the bay many times. He'd say, Mayday, Yankee, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Yankee, Whiskey, Yankee, 6478, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. With small children on board, it was always sort of scary, but we've always sailed. Yes, I would highly recommend sailing for anybody, women included. That's one of the reasons why I love the RS-21s, because a boat, like my boat, is a Beneteau First 36-7, and it's big and it's scary, and when the wind is coming, the sails have a lot of power. It's a great family boat, but it can be a little intimidating for women. Those RS-21s that sit in our harbor are amazing because they suit a woman's body. So we can handle it without too much fear. There's always gonna be fear because you're on the water with the wind, but we can manage them. They're manageable for women, and I totally support women getting out on those RS-21s. It's totally fun. And if they can sail with their family on other boats or race with anybody else as crew in any capacity, there's such a sense of freedom when you're on the water. I participated in the first one, and I think I participated every auxiliary cup except the one when I fell down the stairs and almost broke my back. Amazing women who really thought that it was time to have a regatta that was dedicated to women, which was great. This year, I was awarded the Sportsmanship Award, which is the Founders Award, and I am just so thrilled because it's such a lovely, prestigious award to receive from the Auxiliary Cup founders. I have to thank Sissy Crane, past president Sissy Crane, for introducing me to Dreamboats. I was co-chair with her when I served on the auxiliary back in the early 2000s, and I really didn't know what it all meant. I was just her sidekick. And she shared with me her passion of wanting to make these boats available for regular people. So she hand-selected these skippers and their boats so that we could take a group of women out on them, an opportunity that otherwise you'd never really have a chance to explore. And she handmade all of the lunch boxes herself. And we'd go out there and you could take the helm if you wanted to, or just sit and enjoy the ride, and that's it. It was a wonderful experience. My favorite story about dreamboats is when I was put on a boat with a bunch of old broads. And I say that lovingly. They were amazing women. I think Lois Limbaugh was one, maybe Nancy Rogers. I mean, these women who have sailed out of the club forever. But from an outsider's view, they were just old women. And we sat on the boat in the afternoon and had our box lunch, and we started the conversation going around the cockpit, and somebody said, well, what do you do when you can't sleep at night? And one woman said, well, I get on my cell phone and play games. We're talking 20 years ago. The next person says, well, I knit, or I crochet, or whatever. I journal. It finally came around to me, and they said, Leslie, what do you do if you wake up in the middle of the night? And I said, fret. I worry a lot. And they go, oh, you must be in your 40s. I love that, because these women were the women who came before me and really made an impact on our women's sailing. They were the sea gals. They were out there competing without any recognition whatsoever. And they just were out there for the passion of being on the water. It was lovely. I think that the auxiliary needs to continue to evolve. And the auxiliary was formed at a time when women could not be members here at the club. And this was the way that they felt connected, not only to their husband's passion of sailing and being on the water, but perhaps their own as well. And also creating the community and meeting the other women so that they could all grow up together. The club needed the women at the time because they needed somebody to decorate for the parties and plan the parties. So there was a reason for that. Looking back now, I think that today probably half of the auxiliary board is made up of regular members and auxiliary members. And I think it's important that we maintain the idea that this is a membership in a group that promotes the club on so many different levels to promote women's sailing, which is the mission, and youth sailing, part of the mission, and that sometimes the women and the children do need special attention and do need special consideration, because we too easily could step back and say, it's okay. But as our demographics change, I think that the auxiliary needs to evolve as well and become more inclusive of everybody and not just be primarily women. Make it your year. Do something that you want to do and have it be a signature event. It was challenging. It was very controversial from day one. I had been asked to serve as the auxiliary president. Would I be willing to be so? And I said yes, but at the same time, I had just been asked by the club nominating committee to serve on the board, and I wanted that too. So it was a balancing act, and it was a decision that needed to be made by several people, and it was controversial, but ultimately we, me and the others, decided that for me to hold roles in both of the boards was probably beneficial, and I completely think that today it absolutely was beneficial. It gave me an opportunity to represent the auxiliary in a broader spectrum on the club. Don Jesberg, who was the Commodore at the time, was amazing and gave me every opportunity to represent the auxiliary and let it shine. I think it brought a lot more awareness for people to understand the impact of the auxiliary, the events that we bring to the table, and how important it is not just for the regular club members, but also for the spousal members and the children that we hope someday will become club members. So I think the visibility was amazing, and I hope it continues to carry through. With the RS-21s and the program for women sailing, really trying to push that whole thing forward, I wanted to have it be something that celebrates women. So we are girls at heart. So the scarf in sail language says, sail like a girl. And the signal flags are beautifully arranged, and the collaboration between Lisa Harris and Eugenia Jesberg and Cece Jones in San Francisco was so much fun, and it was amazing. It took way longer than I would have thought, but I'm not a design person. But ultimately, I think the final product is unbelievable, and I'm so proud of it. Sail like a girl.